Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to be joined by actress Lane Bradbury, who played Roni Cotter in the season 8 episode, The Diploma. Please welcome Lane. Welcome.
You know, this has been a journey, hasn't it?
It has.
I mean, I guess I assumed because John lives in this part of the country that you did too. You know, so, and I used to live in LA. I had my children there, and I spent a lot of time in LA. But I moved back here about maybe 10 years ago, and I love the East Coast.
Where are you on the East Coast?
I'm in Weehawken, New Jersey, which is,
okay.
If everything works right from the minute I leave my door, if the bus is there and there's no traffic in the tunnel, I can be at the Port Authority in 5 minutes. You can't beat that. That's not always the case, though. Here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah.
And we're not too old to learn, are we?
Well, listen, I really, really, really struggle with all this technology.
Well, I so appreciate you being willing to persevere through all of this miscommunication and confusion and everything, because I really did want to have this opportunity to do this with you, to chat about.
No, and I felt the same after what John was saying about you. I thought I want to meet her.
So yeah. Tell me what do you remember about, this was the episode, The Diploma, in season 8. So we were nearing the end of the series, and you came on and you played a character named Roni Cotter, and she lived in the backwoods up in Virginia. And so I came up there on my horse, and you were taking care of 2 children, the Beardsley children, and they were sick, and I wanted you to give them cod liver oil, and you kept ignoring me. You know, you were very mistrustful. A lot of the people up in the mountain were very mistrustful of anything. You know, so I was the new nurse. I was the new county nurse. The other one left to join the army, and there I was, and you didn't want to have anything to do with me, and you didn't trust me about this cod liver oil for these children, and you didn't want to teach your brother, who was a little bit slow. I kept wanting you to teach him to read. I said, you should do that. He's maybe a little slow, but he could learn. And you were like, no, he doesn't need to. He knows everything he needs to know. So you and I battled it out.
I don't even remember. I don't even that. It's like I'm hearing this for the first time.
Wow. Wasn't it a great story though? And you were great.
Yes, it is. Right.
All of our scenes were all together. Yeah. Then finally, I kind of came up there and I brought my son. I had a toddler, he was about 2.5. I brought him up there on the horse with me, and I went into the cabin with you and was talking with you. And you took him outside, and I was trying to find out what was going on with these children. Then I came out, and he was like gone, and you were gone. And I'm like, where has she taken my child?
Wow.
And we went, and I heard sounds, and I went over, and you had this sort of garden area, and there was a little rocking horse. And he was on the rocking horse, and you were, sort of playing with him on the rocking horse. And then I noticed these gravestones, and you had lost your husband and your child to like a plague that came through. And so then I understood more about you. Mm-hmm. And so we sort of found this common ground, and you agreed to give the cod liver oil to the children. And I had given this book to your brother, Sweet Billy, and he was starting to learn to read. So it was a very sweet story, and it took a bit, but we, 2 hard-headed women who kind of came to an understanding that we could respect each other and understand each other and appreciate the lives that we each were living, and ultimately what was best for these children and for your brother.
It's like I'm hearing this for the first time. Isn't that amazing? it doesn't, I'm listening to this story, listening to you tell me this story, and oh my goodness, that's a good script.
It's funny because, I did 220 something episodes, and a lot of them are a blur to me because I started the series in 1972 and we did 9 seasons. So in season 8, it would have been about 1980 at that point when you worked on the show. So we're talking a few years, and you were in for one episode. So in the course of a career that you had, this was 2-3 days of work, maybe.
But the thing that it baffles me that it's like new to me. I'm hearing it for the first time. So bizarre,
Were there shows, because I know you worked on things like Gunsmoke and Mod Squad and Partridge Family and FBI, and are there things from the various different shows that you work on that have stood out, that have stayed with you over the years?
Well, I think working on the Gunsmoke show was just so fulfilling to me. I mean, they kept bringing me back, and then I played a country girl, Mary Florine, and they kept bringing her back, and I was in love with Mr. Newley, and he never would give me the time of day. But it was so, and everybody was so incredible to work with. And it was just such a joy it's my favorite show. It's just my favorite show. I did some that I really love doing, but that is the one that kind of sticks in my mind. And the strangest thing is I get email almost every day now from different parts of the world about Gunsmoke. Not just Gunsmoke, but mostly Gunsmoke. Isn't that bizarre?
It's amazing.
I think there's some kind of internet set up about, I don't know, because I don't go there, but it's, I got fan mail when I was doing Gunsmoke, but this is, for me, almost every single day. I got some letter, 2 letters this morning from 2 people somewhere in the world, that watched Gunsmoke. So that show has really had an incredible life.
Yeah, we ran 9 seasons. That ran about, 18, 20 or something?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And that people seem to be drawn to some of these older shows that were so well done and that have really stood the test of time. And that's nice to know that some of what these stories had to say continue to resonate.
Yeah.
That's what we hear about the Waltons all the time, is that.
Yes, that was another one of those shows.
Yeah.
It just had such a strong foundation to it,
Did you watch the show at all?
When I would,
Waltons, when it was on? Or?
Oh yeah. I would watch whenever I was on. I would watch when I wasn't on, but of course I watched when I was on. So
yeah, one of the things that stood out to me, and when I looked into aspects of your life, I was not surprised, was you had this bearing about you that was so. And I went, oh, she looks like she has dance training. And then I looked and I went, oh, yes, because your posture was so good. And, I had a little bit of dance training when I was little. So I and I always loved the ballet, and I loved to go to the ballet. And so when I saw that, I went, that doesn't surprise me. So please share with us a bit of your how your early life and your training, and how you got into the performing arts and the direction you took.
Well, my mother put me in a ballet class when I was 5 years old with Dorothy Alexander. And she just mentored me. I guess I had something because I remember one class, maybe I was 6 or 7, and we were doing tendus, and she stopped the class and complimented me on the way I was doing tendus. I mean, she was so supportive, and so I had something in that dramatic. There was a dramatic place in me that also was nestled in a reality. I learned to be natural and who you are first, so that you're not acting. And I mean, you can spot that, and that was something that I sort of, I guess, had naturally, and the people that I worked with fostered. So, they didn't push me into acting. I was lucky that way.
Very. And you grew up, where did you grow up? On the East Coast?
In Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay. That's what that lovely Southern accent is. And that was where the dance happened. And how did you then transition into the acting?
Well, when I was 16, I was cast in a play called Undine. Now, there's a little story behind that, is that I was in love with a boy named Eddie, and he really has been the love of my life. We never made it through life together, but I mean, he, my first prince, and that's the meaningful prince. Anyway, he was breaking up with me, and he told me that, he said, you're like a little spirit creature, like an Undine. And I said, what's that? And he said, it's a character that Audrey Hepburn is playing on Broadway. About 4 or 5 days later, I heard that the Atlanta Playmakers were holding auditions for the part of Undine.
Wow.
Well, I was Undine, so of course I got the part. And it was an incredible experience for me, because they let me be me. The people were just wonderful. And I'll have to tell you this. Then opening night, everything went really, really well. And then at the place where she is losing Hans, and it's very sad. And all of a sudden, I heard laughter from the audience, and I thought, what's that? And the scene kept going, and I heard more laughter. And I came off stage, and I was just beside myself. And I said to the man that was playing Hans, why were they laughing at me? But when it was such a sad scene. And he said, well, there are boys in there from Georgia Tech, and sometimes they can't handle the emotion. Well, that meant nothing to me. And so then everybody else went on stage to take their bows. And I said, I'm not going out there. I am not going out there. I was just mortified. And so the man, Ted Hartley, who was playing Hans, came off stage, grabbed my hand, and took me on stage to take a bow. And the audience just went crazy.
Wow.
So, that was quite an experience. And then, but my parents could see that I had talent in that area. So when it came, first of all, I was a terrible student. I failed everything. So they really almost didn't have any choice but let me go to New York to see if I could make something of myself outside of school. That was Undine was a highlight of my life, I think.
That's sweet. And you did go to New York, and you did do stage
yes.
work in New York and
yes.
on Broadway, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yes. Well, how did you make then that transition from New York to LA? And did you start doing television in New York first and then end up in LA? Or?
I did. I did one of those live shows called Outcast of Poker Flats with George C. Scott and it was an incredible cast, and it was my I had done a walk-on part, and the director then cast me from the walk-on part. He cast me in Piney Woods, who was just a little hick. But my husband was Larry Hagman, and everybody was just so wonderful to work with. And it came to be, rehearsals was so fun. And then it came to be, when we were on the air live in front of the whole nation. And I picked up, I started rehearsing my lines. I'd forgotten everything. I got my script. I read my script. I started rehearsing my lines. I could not remember anything. I thought, what am I going to do? I'm going to fail in front of the whole nation. I walked out. It was coming time for me to go onto the set. I walked out of my dressing room and I looked up at the monitor and I saw Larry Hagman, and he was so handsome and so wonderful. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's my husband. I just sailed through everything. But that was a scary moment.
I bet. It's like the actor's nightmare. Every actor in talk has that nightmare that you're going on and you don't know your lines.
Right. Yes, it is.
It's a show you haven't rehearsed.
I remember one show I was doing, and we had shot the master, and I was the shot was I was facing a door. My back was to the camera, and when I turned around, I had to be in full tears. And I'm preparing, and nothing's happening. And it's one of those things, if you're supposed to be in full tears and you ain't, you're in big trouble. All of a sudden, I looked at the doorknob of the door, and that reminded me of how many times I had been left. I turned around and it was full blown.
Wow.
But, that's like, oh God, just by the grace of God, he gave me that thought and or it came to me, but it's sometimes those things can be absolutely terrifying. Yeah. What we are asked to do,
So you did a live thing in New York, and did that turn into something then that you had an opportunity in LA to do something on television, or?
Well, after I was in New York for a while, I was married to an actor named Lou Antonio, and we decided to move to the West Coast. So that's when I started doing TV and just loving it. You don't have to repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat every night, and so a whole new career started. And then I had children there and raised my children there. I had horses. I had a wonderful, really wonderful life. And then a friend of mine, he was a writer, and he said, I would like to write a cabaret show for you. So he wrote a show called Let Me Entertain You Again. And I came back to New York and I did it as a fundraiser for a school. And the bug bit me, being back on stage again. And so I came back to LA and I decided that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to come back to New York and do work and do cabaret work. So I had to make peace with myself and leaving my children. But And one of my children, Elkin, my oldest, wanted me to come, and Angelique said, "Mom, you're going to be a grandma. I want you to be here with your grandchildren."
Oh.
I almost didn't do it. And then I talked to another friend of mine, Suzanne Topalian, and she was my French teacher and really one of my best friends. And she talked to Angelique, and Angelique said, "Mom, go, just go." So I did, and I love it here. You know, I love doing cabaret work because it's fun. I'm singing, I'm acting, the thing that's been wonderful is that sometimes when you make a mistake, it can turn into something that's just terrific. I'm not panicked on the stage. I know that I'm at home there, and I love what I'm doing.
That's great. And that's something that you continue to do now these days. And it's still your passion and your lifelong love. That's great. Yeah. Tell me about this novel, this book that I want to hear about that.
Well, it's called Even the Least of These. And let me just read you a little something about it. Let's see. Even the Least of These, a poignant, thought-provoking novel that centers around the lives of those living in the deep American South during the 1930s, that is just as pervasive in modern America as it was nearly a century ago. It mirrors the racism and prejudice that we are experiencing today. Put together, a born-again preacher, Charles, who is fighting his own homosexuality, a born-again deacon, Mobley, who feels God's power to heal only when his subjects are weak and powerless. Put together two young Afro-American men who have been best friends since childhood. They have managed to keep under wraps the sexual urges they've had for each other because of the eternal damnation it would bring onto them. The story weaves itself around Lizbeth, in her 50s, being born mentally retarded. The left side of her body is paralyzed, and she walks with an awkward limp. Under her left arm, she carries Susie, her little stuffed monkey. Now, Lizbeth is patterned after my sister's sister, who was retarded. Mm-hmm. And when I was younger, I was very, very mean to her. Mm. So I think I'm trying to make up for my meanness because she's the heroine of the story. So anyway, it's gotten really good reviews, and I'm peddling it every way possible. I carry this little thing with me, and when I see people like at ballet class, I'm just handing them out because I do think it's a good story, and it's gotten really good reviews. So we'll see.
Well, that's good. Thank you. Congratulations. I hope it finds a broader audience and that it resonates with people, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for coming and sharing with me about your life, and, you know.
Well, it's been fun and learning about you too.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this segment with Lane, despite the fact that she didn't remember anything about her time on the Waltons. I did enjoy learning about her life and all the other things she worked on and what a full and passionate life she has led. And we did find we shared a lot in common between both being singers and both having done a lot of stage work and also a common love of horses. So I hope you'll join me next time for more behind the scenes of the Waltons and more of your questions in another Ask Judy. And who knows, I might even have some more special guests. Thanks for watching.